So we're standing inside the Woody Hayes Athletic Facility. I'm Stephen Means and Stefan Krajisnik, and that's Andrew Gillis. This is the last time we're going to be in this building until next week, maybe, depending on what happens on Monday when Ohio State faces Notre Dame in the national championship game. We talk with Ryan Day and a boatload of different players before everybody leaves to Atlanta, and we talk to Ryan Day and a boatload of different players, and then we'll do talking to Ryan Day and talking to a boatload of players, and then we'll talk to Ryan Day one more time, and then they'll play football next Monday. Get the text 614-350-3315. I have a question for you two guys that I'm also sending out to our texters for a pod later this week. Ryan Day's never won a national championship. He's won 2 Big Ten titles, and he's beaten Michigan once. And he keeps talking about this idea of leaving no doubt. And there's a micro conversation of just like leaving no doubt in terms of go win the football game. But then there's national titles are a big deal. Stefan, starting with you, what do you think a national title can do for Ryan Day as a head coach, but then also for this Ohio State football program being led by him?
Well, the one thing it would do immediately is kind of erase the cloud that hangs over of, Ryan Day is a good coach, but he can't quite win the big games. He can't quite accomplish the big things. And maybe that Michigan conversation still hangs on. But winning a national title removes any doubt about what your program can accomplish with you as a head coach. It puts you in elite company with the only active head coaches right now are Kirby Smart and Dabo Swinney, who have won national titles. And think about Clemson and maybe some of the struggles that they've had recently. What's the one thing that Dabo has always had that you basically lean back and say they're never going to fire him? You know why? Because he's won national titles. Like that is a guy who has shown that he could take Clemson to the peak. Kirby Smart has shown he could take Georgia to the peak, and that's what Ryan Day has a chance to accomplish here. He has a chance to put himself in elite company where no matter what you say about Ohio State, they could go 10-2 next year, 9-3, not make the playoff. He will always have the trump card to say, yes, but I showed I can win a national championship, and that is massive for. And it probably sounds silly for a team that, has no problem getting NIL and things of that nature. That helps too, right? Like that helps, you say to donors, hey, look what we can accomplish when we have the right roster in place, when we have the right pieces in place. That the guys that in today's age of college football cost a lot of money, to be frank about it. Like all this stuff helps your program when you say, yes, the guy in charge has shown you that he could do it. It's not an idea. It's not, hey, this is a guy who learned under Urban Meyer and Urban Meyer did it, so that means this guy can do it too. Like, no. You can say Ryan Day is a coach who led a team to a national championship. It changes any cloud hanging over the program.
And is there Ohio State's already one of the best recruiting programs in college football, but also, is there something extra that can maybe be unlocked here when you win a national title on the recruiting trail?
Maybe. I think maybe a little bit, but I don't know if it's going to be this grandiose change for Ohio State because, what are they going to do? Get more top 5 classes than they normally get?
Maybe.
What do they get? The best recruiting class in Ohio State history was the class of 2021, and that group wasn't swayed by a national championship victory. 2020 they lost, 2019 they lost in the semis. That was not a unit that was hey, this team won a national championship. Let's go there and win more. It was hey, let's go win one at Ohio State. Let's go win a couple at Ohio State. And obviously we've talked a lot about that class. So, I think that there is a benefit and there is something where, Ryan Day gets some breathing room now. And I think that that's probably the key phrase. If you win a national championship, as crazy as it is to say, you get breathing room if you win a national championship. But we were talking, it is January 15th. We were talking 6 weeks ago, is this guy going to get fired if they lose to Tennessee? Literally a month ago, we were having conversations in this exact building going, I think if they lose to Tennessee, this might be a thing. This wasn't fan narrative. This wasn't, anything, that was just kind of drawn up by fans or drawn up by the lunatic fringe, as some would say. This was a genuine conversation of, I don't know if he's going to be the head coach here if they lose to Tennessee. And now we're here, and now we're in this moment, and I think that it gives you the credibility to go into a room and say, I'm going to be here for a long time. There's not anybody's thought in the back of their mind going, well, if he loses to Michigan one more time, maybe he might not be the coach there. There's no conversations. There's no worry about Ryan Day's tenure at Ohio State. There's no worry about the long-term tenure at Ohio State. So I think there is a recruiting benefit. There is a recruiting boost. But Ohio State already recruits to a level so well. I think it's just maybe an affirmation, reaffirming some things that you already thought about this program was that, hey, this program can win national championships. And, yeah, it's been 10 years, but they are still competing at that level, and they are still recruiting at that level.
So when Urban Meyer won his I think the day of the game, Sean Wade committed to Ohio State. Now, this was before the game happened, but he committed to Ohio State. And you didn't see the immediate impacts on the recruiting trail because you had the 15 to 16 classes. But that 17 class is where you saw, oh, this is because Urban Meyer won a national title here. It got Chase Young. It got Jeff Okuda. It got J.K. Dobbins. It got Josh Myers and Wyatt Davis and on down the line here. You can trace that all the way back to them winning the national championship in 2014. You're right. They've since taken a rocket ship to the recruiting trail, so it's not going to be, oh, you're going to get Devin Sanchez. Well, Devin Sanchez is literally going to already be on your sideline when you win a national title. But I am wondering, recruiting's in a different space now, right, with NIL and all these other different elements. Can that still have some juice to it in a way that you've seen it in the past when teams win a national title? To your point, often when you see somebody take over for a guy who was a national championship head coach and they win a national title early, they are often doing it with that guy's players. And so what happens is once those guys tail off, that's when you see the program start to tail off, when it becomes more about that program. You saw it at Miami. You've seen it at Nebraska. You've seen it at other places along the way. And maybe if you thought that's where this was going with Ryan Day, because Urban Meyer's players are not in this building anymore. Nobody. Urban Meyer's last class was 2018. There is not a single player from the 2018 recruiting class on this roster. There's barely any from the 2019 class. So it's 2020 and on. This is all Ryan Day. So if he wins this isn't a guy who's benefiting from the last guy's players. He's doing this with his guys. His guys are the seniors. His guys are the leaders. His guys are the core of this team. So to your point of, there's not going to be a fall off. There's not going to be any of that stuff. It's been a weird 4 years for Ryan Day. Let's just be real here. The goal coming into this year was leave no doubt for a program who has done nothing but leave doubt for 4 years. And there's the element of, can he win the big game? But also, to both of your guys' point, being able to put, say, Ryan Day, national championship winning head coach, there's a cachet that comes with that to where you can't question him, at least for a certain amount of time. So whatever this roster looks like a year from now, 2 years from now, you're doing that with the idea of this guy's done it before, so you believe he can get over the top again. Right now you don't believe that, but you might be able to believe that after what happens on Monday.
Yeah, I mean, you see it at all levels. Like, think about how Mike McCarthy, how long he's been with the Cowboys. Like, you know what they keep saying? Well, yeah, that guy won a Super Bowl. Like, it keeps coaches around a long time. It helps careers flourish, and especially in a spot like in the collegiate level, now you add the recruiting aspect. Now you add the, hey, come play here. By the way, you don't have to worry about this coach and this staff being gone by the time you enroll. Like, you know they're going to be here. It goes a long way.
Well, and what, like, we talked so much about kind of Ryan Day's stuff and leading, specifically after the Michigan game leading into Tennessee. It's like, what were the concerns that fans had, that we talked about, that was kind of just the narrative about this team? The Michigan thing is just, it's still going to be out there, whether they win 55-0 on Monday or whether they lose 55-0 on Monday. The Michigan thing is still a thing no matter what. But, like, one of the things that we had talked about for so long was, okay, well, it's a big game issue. Okay, well, if they win the national title, they will have beaten, I believe in the exact rankings, not the seeding from the college football playoff, I believe it would be 7, 1, 3, and 5.
Plus the regular season
Plus
of
the regular
winning,
season.
beating two other playoff teams with Penn State and Indiana.
Right, exactly. Like, Indiana, their 2 losses came to the 2 national championship contenders. They beat Penn State. They played a really, really tough schedule, and the one loss that they had, aside from Michigan, was, the 1-point loss in Eugene. So, they played a solid schedule, and a really good schedule, and they won those games. And then it's like, okay, well, he won the big games. The recruiting has been elite for the last couple of years. Like, go look at the rankings. Like, even when Ohio State was, just starting out with Ryan Day, when Ohio State has been in the midst of Ryan Day, and even now at 2025, like, the recruiting rankings and the recruiting classes are elite. So it's like, okay, the recruiting stuff is check. The big games, obviously, right now it would be check. National championship, check. There's one thing left, and it's Michigan. And at that point, you start to have questions of, like, okay, but how much of the fan base can live with that because all these other boxes are checked because you just won a national championship? It is very funny that we are at this point of, we talked for so many years of this, like, 12-team playoff era. Can Ohio State fans stomach a loss to Michigan in the same year you win the national championship? And we might be there in a couple of days.
It's been a weird 4 years for Ryan Day. It's just been a really weird 4 years. And Ryan Day got asked this today about this idea of, and he keeps talking about it, the story is still to be written. And maybe it's hard to talk about it this way because we're living in it, but this has a chance to be the greatest season in Ohio State history because of what you just ran down. They might have played 7 of the top 10 teams in the country by the time this season ends and have beaten all of them. And the only one they didn't beat, they avenged that loss later on in the year. It's a conversation between 2002 when you go undefeated and win your first championship in 30 years. It's 2014 when you win that and when you have to kind of backdoor your way into the college football playoff and you win with a third string college quarterback. But you were underdogs in both of those two situations. And one, you beat a dynasty and ended that dynasty essentially with Miami. The other one, you were an underdog and probably shouldn't have even been there. You're the favorite, but also, even if you're going to be
have been the favorite all year too,
and even if you were in this season 14-2, you'd be 14-1 in 2014, and then and you'd be 14-0 in 2002. It's just the road traveled to win this national title is just. I don't know if you can overlook that, even if one of the losses is to Michigan. It's going to be an interesting conversation. Let's see how Monday plays out. Get the text 614-350-3315, 2-week free trial, $3.99 after that. We'll continue to talk about this on Buckeye Talk. So go listen to that wherever you find podcasts. Steven, Andrew, Stefan, we have a flight to catch. See you in Atlanta.